Hi guys, this is Annette with Annette's Astrology Corner, and I am going to be talking about Chiron moving into Aries. Now, this tree, for some reason, symbolizes that transition to me. Bear with me. Hopefully I can build a case and make you guys understand what I'm thinking in my brain. It's hard because I'm still in a retrograde cycle. But you have this tree, and I just want to show how massive this tree is. Oh, it's like huge, right? It's a big fir tree. And these particular trees have very shallow root systems. I know because around here, if you have property that has a fir tree like this, you're always worrying about it toppling onto your house because of the shallow root systems. They don't have like a big taproot like a maple tree. They have, these shallow root systems that just really intertwine and really grab a hold of the earth where it can, but it's all very shallow. So with enough moisture that we get here, I mean, honestly, look how many days I've shown you clouds and rain. It's a very real problem. But if you look at this badass tree, it's not defined by its shallow root system. It actually has a very massive shallow root system. It defined its life by where it chose to be challenged. And because of this challenge and it taking a hold and setting its roots down in challenge, and the challenge would be, you can't really tell, but this is a cliff that goes directly into water. And but look, because it has spent so many years in this challenge, it's earned this. And look at its view. Okay? Look at that. This is the most peaceful part of this lake, I feel. Every time I come here, it's probably the furthest away from people. There are people that come out this way, but those are the really, intense hikers. But for the most part, they kind of stay close to their cars because they don't want to work that hard. So, this is the place where this tree got to be. Furthest away from people, with the best view, on the most peaceful spot. And so, yeah, it accepted this challenge of this, intense terrain. And I'm just amazed at the root system. I'm obsessed with root systems. I don't know why. Maybe it's because of my own personal recent inner turmoil with my roots in my life, and where I was karmically fated to have my root system and what it has done to me. It hasn't defined me, but it has definitely challenged me. But if you can see where your roots and the challenge that they may have generated in you, they've created an empowering situation where you get the best of the best, right? Where you have the power, the determination, and the strength to endure a challenge that most people wouldn't have because of this root system, because of the challenges with your root system. So I wish you could see that, because off in the distance a duck was taking off and it was stunning, and my dog just saw it. So I want to talk a little bit about right now, and I'm just going to reposition myself, just coming out of Pisces energy, coming out of a Chiron transit in Pisces. I want to talk about that because I've often feel that energy work is extremely intense to feel, and I don't think it's given enough. Hey, no more, no duck. That's it. Life is full of disappointments. Hey, come here, pumpkin eater. I love you. Concentrate on the good. Oh, did you get caught? Hold on, my dog got caught on the tree. All right, so energy work. Okay, so when we transition from one energy to a different energy, meaning Chiron's coming out of Pisces and going into Aries, and it's doing it this month. Please don't go near the cliff. I'm going to have to shorten your leash. I hope you have some problem solving skills and know not to do that. Having some faith and trust, dude. And I think it's hardest on Pisces, and it's going to be the hardest on Aries moving forward. But I think for anybody who's just extremely aware of energy and can tune into it, when energies transition, there is that feeling of just exhaustion and a feeling of being overwhelmed, a feeling of just being tired. And just, I feel like what's even worse is just that depleted feeling that you get when you've just done a massive transit from an outer planet. Interior work is different. It's fleeting. Things come and go and things come up. But they're situations that don't have extensive work as much as our outer planets. There's a lot of exterior work, because you're taking in all of the energy from your surroundings and on a global scale, and on your particular area scale, and then you're taking in all of the energy of what this outer planet's lesson is trying to teach you. And this cumulative lesson in this particular area can be quite draining. Pisces work is really hard. It's dealing with the mental realms and the limitations and the strengths and the weaknesses and the pain and the suffering. And it deals with a lot of this really buried subconscious inner turmoil that many of us didn't even know we had. We didn't know we had that limitation. We didn't know that there was anything wrong, right? For many of us, we had built the illusion in our minds that everything was fine. Or we made it through it, we're cool. Or we created the illusion in our life that no matter where we came from, we made it. We got out of it, and we created the opposite in our lives. So we created an illusion. But the root of this tree and the simplicity of this tree is just genetically predisposed to have a shallow root system. It is absolutely certain that at some point this tree is going to topple over, because there may be a very intense rainstorm that washes away so much of this land and erodes so much of this land that at one point this tree is going to topple into this water. That's the reality, right? This tree built the illusion. I have this amazing view. I've overcome all these challenges. And look at this badass view. But the simplistic part of this tree's life is it's in a vulnerable state, always, because of the location where it is, because of where it was planted, where it chose its life to be. No, stop. So if you can see, and you may not be able to see, I'm going to try to zoom in right there. See that? Okay. So that's man, realistic man in this tree's life, saying at some point you're going to topple over. I'm going to give you some weak points in the base of your trunk. And if you're going to topple over, you're not going to topple over onto the path that we work really hard to maintain in this park. I'm going to make sure that you topple over into the water so that you don't hurt anybody. No destruction happens when it comes time for this to be over for you. And so that is man and spirit working together in this perfect dance of illusion and reality. So I never thought about finding this tree. I'm going to be honest with you. It just happened to be like this particular pace spoke to me. And for some reason, I've thought a lot about this work that we're feeling, this intense feeling of like, we're going from Pisces into Aries. So we just dove into some of the deepest parts of our psyche. We found some of our weaknesses that on an unconscious level we didn't know we had. I got to do this because I'm a reflection nut. And I'll let you guys start this reflection for a while. And what was very difficult during that time is, just having no, Francis. No, Francis, you have to stay. Sorry. I know, baby. Sorry. Is having the realization that much of what we created was just an illusion, because we weren't as secure, we weren't as happy, we weren't as solid as we thought we were. We weren't as mentally stable in a particular area of our lives where we idealized we would be. We really, when we chose our life, we didn't think about this limitation, this shallow root system, right? We didn't think about at some point, it's so rainy here, this ground's going to erode and this tree is going to have to topple into this water. It's going to happen. It could be hundreds of years, but it could be 50 years. It could be 2 years, depending on the rainstorms around here. No, Francis, let's go. And so I think that that's very telling of where we're at. So we're depleted, word wore out, the reality checks have been intense, because we went from being in a state of perfect illusion to our illusion toppling during this entire Neptune and Pisces and Chiron and Pisces transit. When you get that level of reality, especially if you are a person with strong Pisces placements, it has been an earth-shattering time in your life to go through this Chiron and Pisces transit. Combined, with your sun in Neptune, right? With Pisces energy in Neptune. But we all felt this to some degree. We all had an area of our life where we created an illusion where we felt more secure than we should have been. And so it kind of shook, rattled, and rolled us, Uranus and Aries, So at the same time where we thought we had this really great part of our life and we've created this magical picture that should have worked out, if you just could draw it, paint it, if you could create it, you created the perfect situation to make yourself happy. However, thanks to Uranus and Aries, we have had every part of that beautiful shattering, that beautiful image shattered or cracked or changed, or chaos has been added to that. So what you created is unrecognizable. And it is so far away from the illusion of happiness, the illusion of no pain, the illusion of mental safety and security, that it has shattered many of what we identify with most, right? Because what we used to identify with most was an illusion. And that's just such a trip, guys, because this stuff went so deep into our psyche and just really revealed that in some situations we had some personal accountability because we chose to turn our heads to not believe in the reality of our situation because we didn't want to look at it, right? So we're depleted, the energy, we're drained psychologically, mentally. I feel like many are tapped out right now. And it's just easier to want to turn your head away from the challenges ahead. But then we go into all this Aries work. And I really want to talk about that. I really spent some time focusing on this because, first of all, I want to talk a little bit about just the transition from Pisces to Aries. So Pisces work is this deeply psychological area of you where it cumulatively sums you up. All your spiritual belief systems, all of your ingrained responses, all of your family values, your morals, your ethics, and it on an internal level defines you. it forms your thought processes, forms your dreams, forms your hopes, and forms your ambitious goals, because you have to be able to attach to where you're not at in your current reality to create hope. So but Aries is all about your reality. Aries is all about, you know, your sense of responsibility, right? Aries is all about the process of going from being unconscious to conscious, from being unaware to aware. And it's from disillusion to being disillusioned into your current reality. So you can't be painting a pretty picture in your head anymore and trying to make everything match that pretty picture in your head. It's like Aries energy is all about dealing with your reality and fighting the war it takes to get what you want. And these are superficial needs and wants. When we're in Pisces energy, this is like on a level that we can't even touch, because it's cumulative in our soul. It's our spirit. It's our belief that in hope and dreams, and it's not attached to reality. And how difficult is it that to transition from that into straight hardcore reality, to have all of that stripped away from us and removed, and then for us to have to at some point be this man that looks at this problem, maybe sat at this spot one day and said, crap, but one day this might hit a hiker, right? And be like, I don't want to take down this beautiful tree and this stunning root system. It's really clung to make some security out of where it chose to live its life. It's really clung to that. So how can we merge the dream of living in this spot, the dream of this view, the dream of this challenge overcome, into the reality of the situation that this is a very wet climate, and at some point this is going to erode, and at some point this tree will topple over time, you know? And man came up with a solution. Well, I'll put a few cuts in where there's a bulge in this tree. So what's going to happen is when it does split, it'll split where those lines have been dug into the tree. So we can do that right now, but we got to do a lot of work, right? Because that took work. Somebody had to sit here and come up with that conclusion, and had to understand this particular tree, do a lot of research, understand, you know, if we cut into this layer, is it going to bring disease into the cambium layer of this tree? You know, stuff like that. Like, can this tree handle it? But you know, there's a lot of sap in this tree, so like it'll heal itself pretty easily, and it's okay to cut into a tree like this. But some trees wouldn't be able to have, you know, that much of their bark disturbed, because there's a lot of disease in trees around here. I'm a nerd, by the way, so that's why I know some of this stupid stuff. So brings up another point. I was looking at my paperwork because I wanted to say on task because I'm in a retrograde. All right, so during the process of when Aries, Chiron moves into Aries, it goes into a square with Saturn. And Saturn is in close relationship with Chiron and Uranus. And so when you look at the fact, oh my gosh, that was like a huge fish that just totally jumped out of the water and scared the hell out of me. I think it looked like a giant freaking, I don't know, bass. It was ginormous. Just did not expect it. I really hope it was caught on video, because that's freaking cool. And I'm a fishing freak, so I love fish. I eat fish, like that's the only meat I eat. But sorry, I got distracted. Dang it. See, this is why I come out here, because I get so distracted. So Chiron in Aries is going to be in a square with Saturn until December. And so this Aries work, you can bet, is going to peel back the layers of the lessons you've learned in your life that you've been spending a great deal of time on. And this square this is a beautiful energy to have in a square, because when Aries energy goes into a square, it gets pissed, it gets angry, it gets rebellious, it gets energized, right? And even though it's so cool because I can see the little guy, he's like partying right here. Like if I threw a pole in, it'd be so awesome. Anyhow. The way that you rev up in Aries is to challenge it. And that's how you bring forth some of the most powerful energy in Aries. And so to have Saturn squaring it, being told no, being told that it can't do something because these are the rules and structures it has to exist in between to get what it wants. None of that is going to work with an Aries, right? You're not going to confine it and tell it what to do and put it in a box and expect it to just do it, right? No. So there's going to be this little battle that goes on between power and control issues and the struggles. Francis, enough. Come here. You have to be the focus of attention or you're just not freaking happy, and it's just quick. Come here. Sorry, I had to love my dog because unfortunately he's going through a mental breakdown. Yes, you are going through a mental breakdown. Okay, so I think he saw the fish because he's like staring at the water. He's a very smart puppy. So anyhow, what I think is going to come out of this transit for Chiron and Aries and the struggle, the squaring off, and there will be times of the year that actually Chiron will square off with Uranus as well. What's going to be developed from this, meaning anytime you have any sort of planet working with in combined energy with Saturn, is you're developing wisdom in a specific area of your life, and in this area it's your sense of self. It's your sense of self-worth, right? It's you developing your true self. You know, not the self that you idealized and fantasized and may have been brainwashed into believing that you were. I have this story. This unfortunate person that I knew. Gorgeous man. 6'5", beautiful body in his day. And he was just a beautiful, sparkly Pisces, right? And charming, and just had a job for like ever, and had this house on this hill, and just this amazing man, right? Had every single thing in the world going for him. But he couldn't get out of his illusion of like being in high school and being the captain of the football team and all girls wanting him, and him being the guy that was homecoming king and all this silly crap. I mean, the stories he told me were just so disgusting because he had tied his identity into these things that were so many years ago and really thought that he should still be dating the cheerleader, right? And he was just so disgusting. I mean, literally everything he represents, I can't stand in a man. But, and I spent a great deal of time trying to get him to identify with what I saw, which was he was incredibly intellectual. He had the capacity to sometimes surprise me and go on very deep, explorative conversations about, these topics that I was very interested in. But he didn't relate to them. He just talked about them to create the illusion that he was interested, but he really wasn't interested in them. He just knew I was. And so, but he didn't grow or ever incorporate them into his life or anything. He had the basic knowledge, but he didn't want to, you know, dive into them, because in his illusion, he was so ingrained in his illusion that he was, you know, this hot, beautiful man. And he is, but he's nowhere near what he used to be when he was in high school. He's like 50, losing his hair now. And so, yes, for his age, he's a beautiful man, but he is not a beautiful man like he was back when he was younger. And so he was dating all the time, and the girls that he would attract, he was personally offended with. And he was so repulsive. He would call them fat and call them, you know, all of these horrible names, because he was so offended that they would think that they would have a chance with him, right? Because he was like living back in high school. It was the craziest ride with a person I've ever met, because I've never seen somebody so disconnected from reality and so lost in his own illusion. And you can bet that he had a powerful breakdown, lost his job, lost his wife, lost his kid, and really started to decline physically, because he could not let go of the fact he was entitled and deserved everything he's had all his life, but he's never learned anything from it. You know, he didn't take all of that in stride. Like, he didn't know that, you know, like most people understand that if they're famous, at some point the fame goes away, and they try to keep their feet on the ground. And the people that don't are the people that get lost and have these like big, huge mental breakdowns and create all these problems for each other. To me, he was the perfect story of this time, where he's an addict, of course, just really caught up in all the negativity of a Pisces energy. So of course he's caught up in, he just stays drunk in order to try to hold on to that illusion. That's where his illusion is safe. That's where he can stay in his state of illusionment, because as soon as he gets sober, the reality hits him of what a mess he's made out of his life. Very sad story. Obviously, I don't talk to him anymore because he was exhausting. But so I kind of want to talk a little bit about, this is getting long. It's such a big subject for me, because I've personally been so connected to many Pisces Aries, Pisces energy in my life. I was raised by two parents that were Pisces, and then I had a trauma bond who I associated as my mother, and she was also a Pisces, and I've had nothing but Pisces as friends. I've just had to live the Pisces experience, and I've had to work through these childhood issues with all Pisces, because that's just what happens to you when you have a karmic journey and you're walking through your life in it. So Aries, unfortunately, my Chiron, living with this feeling of something big is emerging, something's coming, and I couldn't stop these reality checks from manifesting and entering my life. They were doing all of this intense damage. It was so hard to have every illusion in my life shattered and destroyed. Absolutely destroyed. I can't even connect any part of my identity to these illusions that have been shattered, because they were shattered in such a degree that even if you tried to put them back together, there are pieces missing, and it could never complete that picture again. They're gone. It's an ending. It's done. I am never going to have those things back. It is a loss, and I suffer greatly. They're very painful. It's very depleting. It's very hard to overcome. But thankfully, we have all of this energy dropping into Pisces, and we have Chiron going into Pisces, and we have Uranus going to move into Taurus to help us understand who we are and develop our sense of self-worth and raise the bar in our life, and not connect so much to a volatile illusion that has the ability to dissipate. but that we have the ability to make our dreams come true and our hopes a reality because they're based on something solid and something that is reality. So it's, when we're looking at things on that degree, it's like, what is it, existential, I guess is the word I'm trying to look for. It's just, I can't even attach a word to it, because the work that you do when you have your realities completely shattered, and the work as you try to rebuild yourself basically without even a foundation. You first have to create your foundation because you have no more foundation. And so this work is very intense to feel. So I wrote down some words. I attach a lot of value to words. I may not always use them properly because I have so many words in my head. And when I get into this energy, or any energy work, I have so much to say, but I tend to lose my words because the energy overwhelms me. I'm working on trying to find a way to focus myself better, like coming out to places like this where I am not so distracted, where I can connect to my mind a little bit better. So the words that I really attach to when Aries, when we're going through this Chiron-Aries energy work, is on a positive side, I really attach to self-worth. I really attach to empowering myself, right? And on the positive side, this is a time of really defining those areas for me. What is my worth? And then how do I empower myself? Because what we're trying to do is to redefine ourselves and get others on board with our new identity. We're trying to get others to identify us with the empowering sides to us. Not all of our strengths and not all of our weaknesses that have been pointed out ad nauseum, right, lately, but all of our strengths, all of our potential. So this is a time of, really disassociating yourself from others. And really, you want others to be a mirror. So we want to see if we're doing good, right? So it's kind of like putting your makeup on without a mirror and then looking in the mirror and seeing if you actually did it right. Like you made a mistake. That happened. Like, let's get real. So we want to actually put our makeup on in a mirror and then go out into the world and, people see your makeup techniques for what you do. If you like makeup analogies, whatever. I think this is a time to be so secure that you don't have to be defensive. You don't have to fight to be treated fairly. You don't have to be aggressive. You can be assertive. You can be assertive, and you can show people your strengths, and they value them enough to invest in them. I don't care if it's a commitment. I don't care if it's money. I don't care if it's admiration. It's you've earned it, right? You've got to go out there and earn this level of self-respect. It is not something that you're given because you look a certain way or because you are a certain way. It's like you don't get to just go into the world and just because you are. Everybody should just understand who you are. Or because you have a degree or a PhD. Because you have a degree and a PhD means that you're really, really good at something. It's like, no, you walk up there. If you just got out of school, you don't have the intellectual capacity to be able to apply what you've learned. Yeah, you've learned a lot, but what have you learned? Like, you don't know how to apply it. You don't know how to make a job out of it. You don't know how to hone it and target it. You don't know about what your personal gift is by learning all of that. Like, you don't know how to incorporate that into your life. That's wisdom. That's life experience. That takes time. That's all Saturn work, right? That's all that square in Saturn. And you're squaring off with this very touchy part of you. So at this time, people are gonna pick at your scabs. And they're going to, they're not going to let a wound heal maybe. Because it's not work if the scab just heals over. And yeah, sure, you've got a slight little scar, it's no big deal. But for most people, where they get the most value is they've got this scab that won't heal. They've got to change their life to deal with the fact that they've got this weakness, or this scar, or this wound that just doesn't seem to want to heal properly, or that's in the process of healing, or that is always going to be there and weaken you in that particular area of your life. You've got to find a way around it. This brings me to, I worked in Portland for 3 years, and I'd commute in, and I'd take the Max downtown. And there was a guy that had half a body. And he, his legs were his skateboard. And he would go everywhere on a skateboard. And this skateboard allowed him to have the legs he needed. And he was homeless. He lived on the streets, and he was happy. I watched him for 3 years, never interacted with them, just watched him for 3 years, had a large group of friends. They always took them out. He was always running around. I seen him everywhere in Portland. And so, okay, so when you look at him, you identify him as having no legs, but he doesn't look at it like that. He's got a skateboard that gives him legs. This is super complicated to like completely understand. Francis, I know, it's something great. It's like a beautiful kayaker. I know it looks very fun. You love to be out on the water. Oh, my butt is on a bony area. And this is a super long video. So you're gonna need to be brave. I thought about the movie Brave this whole like morning when I was like thinking about where I wanted to go and shoot this video. I was sitting there thinking about how brave you have to be in a vulnerable state. How when you're depleted, when you're tired, when you've been destroyed on a very deep level, when you've had your dreams and your hopes shattered, when you've had something taken away that you deeply identified with and that shaped all of your decisions, it could be gone. Or maybe something just super unfair happened to you. And, you know, the world, you're looking at it through a different lens, and you're like, good doesn't... I remember the day I woke up and understood that good does not conquer evil. That's a dark day. That's a dark time when you have to process that evil wins. Terrible people are the people that get the most out of life. Everything that you identify as good and right is not valued. That's dark. Those are dark days to have that stuff enter your psyche. And to be strong enough and confident enough and brave enough to still walk out into the world and be like, I know that's a harsh reality, but you know, that's the reality. And it doesn't have to be completely your reality. You could still walk out into the world and be that good person, be that example. Oh, this is something that came up to me so much when I was prepping for this video and just trying to really get in touch and feel the energy, is lead by example. What we are doing is the few chosen ones in the world that don't succumb to this challenging time and identify with aggression and anger and war and you know, fighting for their place, what they deserve, what they feel entitled to. If you're the few, and I mean few, that are above that identify yourself with peace, love, and hope that this world can get better and it can change, then you got to lead by example. If it's the only thing you take from this entire video is lead by example. If you want to make a powerful change in the world, it's not about fighting for what our rights are and what we think we deserve. I mean, that's a portion of it, but it's leading by example. And banding together with people that have that mindset, that don't lower your vibration into their insecure worlds. It's about being secure, self-confident, and brave enough to be abnormal, to not fit in, to not conform to, I'm pretty, I deserve this and this and this, or I'm the most intelligent person, I deserve this and this and this because I just am. No, there are people out in the world that understand that respect is earned. Trust is earned. It is not, you're not just entitled to it. It's not just given. It's not just a bunch of words you put together and mislead people. Its actions match your words. Lead by example. That's what's going to be developed in this energy, is a bunch of leaders. And the way that we're going to have to do that, honey, is we're going to have to look at a bunch of people who are leading us in the wrong direction. We're going to have to identify those particular distasteful people and the traits of those people and the way that they manipulate and the way that they hurt other people and their selfish dispositions. And we're going to have to become different. We're going to have to identify ourselves with selfless ventures. We're going to have to not get caught up in states of entitlement and not get caught up in the fact that we just get what we deserve because we are who we are and we look the way we look, or we went to this school, or we drive this car, or we live in this particular neighborhood, or we have this huge of a house or whatever. That stuff is all just bullshit. And it's distasteful and it's disgusting. I don't relate to any of that. I don't place any value on those things. I place value on this. I am choosing to be a pescatarian, and I almost think I'll go vegan at some point because I'm so disgusted by the way that our slaughterhouses are done, are managed, and the laws that don't protect animals. And it may be just one person eating less meat, but I don't care. It's me taking a personal stand against the way that animals are treated. And I don't need everybody to agree with me or not agree with me. I just don't agree with it. And I grew up on a farm, and I ate meat and we raised our meat, but we didn't do terrible things to them. And we didn't make them exist in their own, terrible urine and feces, and we didn't give them hormones, and we didn't make them malformed just to meet our needs, our growing needs for more meat. Like that's just, ugh. And I know this is like a huge political subject, but I don't care. That's where my identity is. I identify with that. And I'm sure that there's going to be other things that I identify with that I'm going to become passionate about during this cycle. And you will too. If you can get out of your head, if you can get out of your sorrow, if you can get out of the loss, if you can get out of the feeling of being a victim, feeling sorry for yourself, if you can, stop the pity parties, guys. We all went through something, and it was hard, and it sucked. And I don't know a person that didn't personally struggle to overcome something. And we all have the God-given right to, and free will, to make our outcome different. And that is what Chiron in Aries is all about. It's not about getting caught up in the fact that Chiron is not an actual classified as a planet and therefore doesn't get the recognition of the planet. It's a planetoid or an asteroid. It's which way do you look at it? Are you not exactly a planet, therefore you don't get to be identified as a planet? Or are you just something incredibly unique that has an energetic value enough to impact us on this earth, and you radiate something just incredibly individualistic? Interesting. I've thought about that way, but it's true. You know? So anyhow, I hope this video helps. I know it's super crazy long, but you have to understand, I'm going to go through my natal Chiron return. Yeah, these are going to get deep. And for the people who can handle it, welcome aboard. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.